What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Sport Exposure Podcast. As you know, we're here to expose sports stories, talk about our journeys, and really create a safe space for student athletes. Today we have my fellow Hamptonian baller, Keiara Avant, here to tell her story. I'm really looking forward to you sharing with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where do I start? So I graduated from Hampton, 2013. 4 rings. I'll just start with that, right? Just get it on out there. 4 years, four rings. So truly excited about that. Majored in business administration at Hampton. Obviously, I'm on my business suit today because I was working a full-time career with KPMG. Where I live now in the Washington, D.C. office or area. And so outside of that, I think is that a good start?
It is a good start. It's a great start. So we're talking about your sports story. Here at Sport Exposure, we're all about celebrating our triumphs and learning from our defeats.
Okay.
So when you hear the motto, what comes to mind when you think about your sport journey?
I mean, honestly, I think my story, I'm grateful to have been able to, obtain 4 rings in 4 years. Not many people can say that.
A lot of people can't.
Yeah, I know. And my dad always, brags and says that I do have a storybook life. But I definitely carry that with gratitude. I think because, it wasn't just me on my own able to obtain that. So shout out to all the coaches, all the players that, were along the journey with me. But started playing basketball at the age of 4, after my sister, following everything she did. I think from there, my dad and parents just really instilled in us to try everything, right? And so I played basketball, volleyball, tennis. We had to get it all out. We had to figure out which was our sport. Right. And sure enough, by my senior year in high school, I think was really when basketball started to take a leap. I had a few other accolades, throughout high school that, were showing that, okay, I could probably play college ball. But I was trying to be the next Serena Williams, too. So, I didn't want to give up. I wanted to see where, life would take me. And then, of course, you all know the recruiting process came along. A lot of my family went to Hampton. So for me, I don't think I went through the true recruiting phase. I did go to the University of Maryland College Park camp up there with Brenda Freeze and thought I was going to go there. Temple was looking at me, but truthfully, I think it was just quick and easy, right? As soon as Hampton said something, I was like, all right, where do I sign? So I actually signed my junior year. So before I even started my senior year, I was locked in.
Early on. You knew you was going to be a pirate.
Here I am, proud pirate. So
tennis, never knew that.
Yeah, Serena Williams. I mean, she was, all we knew growing up.
Right.
So I think just watching her, seeing how her dad, invested the time in her and Venus, and the same that my dad invested time in me and my sister in sports. And so that was the model, right? She's still my, favorite all time. She's the GOAT, like amazing. So I gave tennis a hard go. It was number 1. But obviously the scholarships were coming in from basketball. And so I think anyone that's smart, right, they're going to take the opportunity to get a full ride,
right,
versus trying to make a way out of no way. So
for sure. Now let's talk about these 4 rings, because I know they weren't easy. From 1 to 4.
From 1 to 4. Literally after 1, I was like, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Like, it was hard, So coming in, there were 8 freshmen, and
had a lot.
We had a lot. And I had a coach switch, right? So the same coaches that recruited me was not the same coach that, was there for the 4 rings later. So that was an adjustment, right? Thinking that the coaches who had been coming to my high school games, coming to watch me play, would now be the ones investing in, my college career. Sure enough, I think probably right after I signed, they were probably fired, a month or 2 months later, right? And so heard of, Coach Six getting the interim position coming from, Hampton High. And I thought, what do I know, right?
Exactly.
Again, I didn't really have that many mentors to say, this is your time to switch schools or anything. I just assume, okay, a coach switch, I'll just go in there, do what I need to do and hope for the best. And so luckily, I think as a freshman, having 8 other teammates that were in the same new boat as me.
Transition.
We all just stuck it out together as best we could. I did my best to try to be the, number one, pick out of the 8 of us, just through hard work and dedication, knowing that there's only 15 slots, and if I can do anything wrong and I'm gone. So I got over that hump, did lose a few teammates after freshman year, but I think as a freshman, I did the best I could to be, fresh meat.
Did you play your freshman year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I probably was one of the 1 or 2 of us that got most of the playing time. But that was just because I think even Coach Six, he's probably like, all right, I'm from high school. She from high school. I'm going to give her some minutes.
Right. We both figured it out.
We both figured it out. And honestly, we lost our first 7 games straight. Like when he came in, we lost 7 games straight. And so I think we were all thinking, how's this going to work? And I'm sure he was thinking this isn't going to work, right? And so it wasn't until we decided to finally listen and lock in that we made a switch. I think preseason prediction, we were probably picked last. And I think when it came to the actual championship game, it was 2 versus 11. And we were able to beat South Carolina State my freshman year. So I think it was South Carolina State. But yeah, long story short, freshman year, we were not picked any preseason, nothing, nowhere, and we won. And from there, it was just, yeah.
You said a few things I want to highlight on.
Okay.
So first and foremost, it's a lot of student athletes that sign with one coaching staff and get there as a different coaching staff. So talk about how you had to approach that situation, because a lot of athletes either deter, go the other way, go into it with anxiety, because as you know, coaches tell us everything to get us there. And they can leave at any second.
Yep.
Talk about that transition.
Yeah, I think... for me, we didn't really have, I don't recall if it was any really, push to stay or anything. I think for me, it was, I had already signed here. I'm just going to hang out here. Right. And so I think Coach Six did have the opportunity to ask us hey, feel free to leave or whatever the case may be. But I think I was just so focused in on, again, still one thing, winning, that it didn't even really cross my mind to leave. I think the new students, or I guess new athletes now, have the opportunity, to
getting that transfer portal quick.
Exactly. So, I would encourage them to consider their options, right? If you're not, tied to a school, based on the coach, or tied based on family tradition, if you want to consider something else because your coach left, explore, right? You're not going to get penalized for it.
Make it make sense now.
Make it make sense, right? Because I do know of, some MEAC players that try to switch and go to, higher schools, and they're not getting any playing time, right? So consider that too.
Self-evaluation.
Exactly. Because you could, for whatever reason, leave and then thinking you were the top player in the MEAC, and now you're the bottom. And no one's looking for you.
Be the top player in the MEAC, then they're gonna be top player in ACC.
Exactly.
Don't always work like
it
that.
Doesn't. Yeah. So, that would be my advice: to weigh your options, but also be ready for whatever consequences may come.
For sure.
Because a lot of people I think a lot of student athletes now assume that they have work ethic. And I don't really think this generation...
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And I don't like that for them, for us, because we really did put in the work.
We had to.
We had no choice. Yeah. And so, I don't know what, I don't really know how to tell you to, work any harder if you think you're putting in the hard work, but the results are going to show, right? What you put in is what you're going to get out. And so just understand that you may be thinking, I'm getting up 100, 200 shots a day and I'm running a couple miles, but if someone else is doing more, you're already defeated, essentially. And so your athleticism and your, natural God-given talent is only going to take you but so far. And so you have to be able to put in the work in order to get the results.
And I feel like I learned that for real at Hampton because we were always the top team.
Yeah.
But everybody played us hard. Like,
you saw LSU just got beat.
It didn't matter. Like
first game of the season.
Just because of the name on our front, they pick on and play us hard. They're not gonna play. They're not gonna be the team that we see on Scout. They're gonna come out the woodworks. Everybody gonna be hitting. Everybody's gonna be on. And those are things that in the MEAC, like one thing I would say about the MEAC, I don't know what it is now, but they play hard.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what the talent was. Like hard
fighting. Yeah.
And now it's like I look at these kids like y'all are lucky.
Oh, I mean, I don't want to, bash the new kids, but obviously as a vet now, I feel like I have, I can have a little bit to say.
For sure.
Just a little teeny bit.
Absolutely.
And so I do feel like the work ethic is different. I do think that the mindset is a little bit different. And, I don't know. It's tough.
I feel like it's the approach all in all, from the athletes to the coaches, because everybody that got soft.
Right.
This generation is...
See, I wasn't going to say that, but...
No, y'all are soft. Super soft. But in a way, I don't blame them. Mm-hmm. But in the same time, it's just like we take the work ethic out of it. Like, you could be soft, you could feel some type of way if somebody mistreating you, but I feel like they've gotten comfortable with... this new era because coaches don't hold us to the same type of standard. Like these kids are not running the way we were running. They're not working out or training. Like we were dying every day.
Literally. I remember
every day, maybe 2-3 times a day. And I look like now, like y'all practice once a day. You can't go hard for 3 hours.
Is that? And they're not putting in the work, outside of that. And so it's a new generation. I think, these student athletes now have to figure out what works for them. Really, again, what you want out of life. I think for me, basketball was all I really knew. That I didn't have the aspiration to play in the WNBA, but I did want to play professionally overseas, right? Because I knew going to Hampton, going to a small HBCU, politics. They were not even gonna look my way. Right now, thankfully, HBCUs have gotten a lot more play. Black is in. We up right now, and so I think when I understood the school I was at, even though I felt like my athleticism could carry me to the WNBA, I was like, they're never going to look this way. Right. And so, because even, shout out to my cousin Sugar, who played at Georgetown, went, 14 and WNBA draft pick, played 8 years. We challenged each other in high school. She played at top high school in Suffolk. I played top high school in Chesapeake. And, who could say if I had not signed early, maybe I could have went to a bigger school. Right. But that's that's neither here nor there. Right. I think everything happens for a reason. For sure. But when you put, HBCU versus a PWI, top 25 versus, the second to last conference, right. Is that right there is going to tell you that they're not even looking. Exactly. And so I think from then I had a shift to say, all right, if I'm not going to play professionally, or if I have the opportunity to play professionally as overseas, I still had to have my corporate job, right? This is why I got my business suit on today. Because I'm going to get there. That was the back end option for me if basketball didn't take me, 10, 20 years down the road.
So you knew early on, or you had to have, because it's the majors you chose. Mm-hmm. You knew early on that you needed a backup plan. And the major you chose was not an easy major. Being a student athlete at that, how did you balance that? By the way, she was a 5-year MBA major, y'all.
Yes. So got my master's business administration, for anyone who doesn't know what MBA stands for, but hopefully everyone does. But, I think just structure, right? I think work ethic was another thing. Growing up, my parents didn't really push us to be better than them or anything, but that was just the circumstances that me and my sister grew up in. I think we just knew that we needed more, we wanted more, right? So it was up to us to change our circumstances and change our environment. Right. Right. And so the one thing I always give credit to my mom for is she put us in private school, even in Portsmouth. I grew up in P-Town, and anybody knows if you just say P-Town right there, that your likelihood making it out of P-Town, it could be slim to none. And so, I thank my mom for, even though we grew up in Prentice Park, she said, I'm going to put these girls in private school. And that was the game changer, I think, for us, right? Granted, we still went outside and played with all our, neighbors and stuff like that, but that was the differentiator early on.
Right.
And then in full transparency, my dad got shot and my mom was like, oh, that's it. It's time to go. So we packed our bags, moved to Chesapeake. And from there, the environment was completely different, right? Everybody
That's night and day.
Yeah, literally night and day. And so from then, me and my sister just surrounded ourselves with people who were doing better than us, right? Even if they were in high school with us, we just could see that their, home was a little bit more established, or, their parents were a little more established. And so putting ourselves in positions with people that were doing a little bit more continued to help us see ourselves to be just like them. So that was, I think, the game changer, starting out in private school and understanding that our circumstances did not have to define our future. And
how did you get to that understanding? Because a lot of us come from those similar black communities, and specifically with your father getting shot. What age? How old were you?
It was in 97, so I was 6.
And what did that do for you at that time? You're 6.
Yeah, I don't think it really hit me because I didn't really understand back then.
Right.
I knew for a certain time he was in the hospital, and then he kind of stayed with my aunt to get better, recover, and stuff like that. But I think it was really my sister. I think she got it. That's how she got into medicine, right? Understanding, everything that happened and trying to help him. And she was probably middle school, high school, or probably I think just middle school. And so she was really the role model, and still is the role model. I mean, she's freaking amazing.
She is.
And so having her, as the big sister, because if I was the big sister, I tell her all the time, like, we'd probably still be in British Park. And so having her as motivation to follow and for her to see, right, like, again, our circumstances don't have to define us. I think it was just a matter of we just got to lock in. Like, we just got to do whatever it takes to change the environment until it changes. Right. See a change and be the change.
And that's an ongoing process.
Mm-hmm. Still.
Every day it's like you look up just like, no, I want more. No, I want more.
Yep.
No, I want more.
Yep.
And specifically being a student athlete, 1, balancing life, 2, you're at home.
Mm-hmm.
3, balancing school, and playing on a championship team with a new coach. That comes with a lot.
It does. It does.
Like, what did you go through mentally and emotionally during those 4 years?
I think for me, I cried twice in all 4 years. So I don't know if that makes me too tough or tough enough, right? It really depends. I think everybody's personality traits are different. Mm-hmm. I'm generally a happy-go-lucky, type of girl. Like, it doesn't take much to, get me in a good mood. Right. Like, I'm usually in a good mood. And so there were 2 times that I cried. One, I got kicked out of the game. I'll never forget. It was on the road. And Coach Six put me in the game. And knowing me, again, I was a giggle box in college. So I felt literally. So, and he called me Freak Elite because he thought I was trying to do all the cool moves. So anyways, he called a timeout, drew up a play, put me in the game. I probably watched half of the play in the timeout.
Try to run it.
I was like, I'm good. I got it.
Right.
So timeout's over. Literally, ball comes in. I probably get the first half of the play right. And then from there, that was it. Like, I messed up. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, okay, I messed up. Like, I don't get no second chances. And sure enough, I think he was just fed up with me at that point. I don't even know. Or maybe he was just fed up with everybody and I was just the one that had to take the brunt of it. Literally kicked me out of the game. And I'm like, I don't feel like that deserved to be kicked out of the game. But here I am, sophomore probably at the time, not seeing the big picture. I'm like, whatever, go to the locker room. I'm sad. I'm crying. It wasn't even halftime yet.
Dang.
So I'm just sitting in there. The team comes in at halftime and I'm thinking, all right, maybe I can come back. And he talks to the team and they left the, what do you call it? The sheet that shows the stats, the stat sheet. They left that in there Or maybe it was right
like
after
the box score?
halftime. Yeah. I think, you know what? I think it was after halftime because the box score was in there.
Okay.
And by the time, that's what it was. Yeah. It was
because they didn't have quarters yet.
Yeah. So it was after the half. I got sent to the locker room like shortly after that. That's what it was. And the box score was still in there. And I was leading the team in rebounds at halftime, coming off the bench. And so then I'm thinking to myself, why would you kick me out of the game and I'm leading your team in rebounds coming off the bench? Like, what did I do to justify you not about to get the rest of the rebounds that you just kicked me out of the game for? So I was like really sad and trying to understand why that made sense. And I mean, I don't really know if I got the justification. It is what it is. You know, I moved on. Like every lesson, I guess, is a lesson in itself, in self-capacity. But I just remember that moment, and then the rest of the assistant coaches kind of pouncing on me too. And so that was like one of the 2 times I just completely shut down. And I was just like, this doesn't make sense to me. And I think in life, right, if you try to turn this around and say like, okay, what's the life lesson? I think life doesn't make sense all the time, right?
A lot of times it doesn't make sense.
Right, you know? And so I still don't have the justification for that. But I guess moving forward, I can just understand that everything may not make sense now, but you know, what little bit of nuggets can you get from that experience? And so I just, you know, tried to move on.
What was the second time he was crying?
Second time he,
please tell me. Do tell.
I know. I'm like, what is this show called? Because I'm like, do I expose everything?
It's a safe space.
It's really like coaches cuss all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I heard him call me a jackass or something.
He said that often.
And so
that was one of his go-tos.
Yeah, you know, so I was a little sensitive, you know, being called out of my name at the time. Right. So I'm like, I don't like that. And we were in practice at the time. And so we were on the road, Delaware State, and he said it. And I just like, all right, I'm gonna remember that, you know? And literally that game, I had 17 rebounds and called my dad as soon as I got my phone back. I was like, Dad, I'm not playing on Monday if he doesn't apologize. And my daddy was like, you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. Like, he going to apologize, or, you know, he going to say you said it. I'm like, no, you better go talk to him, or like, I'm not playing on that Monday. Because, you know, in the MEAC, we used to play Saturday Mondays. So but I got 17 rebounds that game. Like, that was the push for me. Like, I think what he does, most people probably don't say not a good job of. It depends on the type of player that you are. Yeah. Depends on the type of player that you are. He knows how to push your buttons to the max. To some people, it'll be, it's not for everybody. Get them going, and some people get them shut down, right? And I was the same way. Sometimes I was shut down. Sometimes I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna get 17 rebounds. Like, I'm gonna show you that I'm not no jacket, you know? Right. So, yeah, got my rebounds, had my justification. Like, don't you ever try that again? Or, you know, I don't even know. I probably wasn't leaving, but I felt like I had something to stand on that point. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, of course, my dad went in the office, and he never, I think, admitted it, just, you know, said something to the extent of, you know, I have a daughter, I would never do that. And I was, at that point, it was kind of like, I'm good because the team won, my stats are growing. I know that was his method to try to get, you know, something out of me. And so at the end of the day, right, everybody's different. Everybody has, everybody can't take the hardcore fussing, and everybody doesn't always respond to, oh, you know, get in there and do better. Like, some people need an extra push. Right. And I think this new generation too, it's hard. We can't say nothing to y'all. Right? If anything we say is like out of context, completely shut down. It's completely shut down. Mommy, and so it's just like, what do you expect from coaches when they're trying to get you to do more? They're trying to get you to do better. They're trying to win, and you're not responding. And so, I mean, growing up, everyone knows I was a hard hit. Like, my mom would tell me, Keiara, don't go off the porch. And I'm still walking off the porch. So I think even throughout, you know, in middle school, high school, I didn't get in as much trouble in high school. Middle school, I'll never forget, I missed getting Student Athlete of the Year because I had ISS like too many times.
I can relate.
So yeah, that was, my mom told me that if you don't, start acting better, you're not going to be able to, be successful basically. And so that hurt, right? Because I knew for a fact.
Especially come from mommy.
I knew for a fact I played all 3 sports. I excelled in all 3 sports in middle school. I just knew when we were in the auditorium, when they said that award,
that's yours.
That was mine. And nope, my name was not called. So high school is a little bit better. I think in college I was fine. I just think his coaching style is, one way. And so I was already prepared for that because I got beatings probably all the way up into high school anyway. So it wasn't as hard, which is why I probably only cried twice. But I don't know. You could probably ask any other teammate, they'll have a different answer. Right.
And I'm glad you said that because as you said before, it's a lot of lessons that we learn from a lot of situations in college. And we talked about this before. I realized that I know for a fact playing, because I played for the same coach you played for. Right. I didn't know. Playing for that man prepared me for any employer that I face. Getting through 4 years with playing for the coach we played for and his coaching style prepared me for life. Because it's like, people ask me all the time, how are you able to do this? How are you able to do that? I'm like, y'all don't know the type of coach I played for.
Yeah.
And that's somebody you had to wake up to every morning. You had to deal with all day, every day. And talk about how you had to find a lesson in those moments. Because I was the hard ass too at one point too. And especially in college, it was really hard for me to accept his coaching style. So it was kind of like, you say this, I say this, I'm kicked out. All right, cool. Like I have a double one game. You don't like what I say? All right, bet I'm benched for the next 2 games. like they asked me like, dang, you hurt? Like, yeah, I'm hurt. Like, but those are things that I had to learn later. It's just like, you can't control people's personality. Sometimes in the rooms that you're in, especially working in corporate, being a woman, being a Black woman, you're not going to be able to control the people who control you. So talk about those lessons and how you come to realization with that.
Yeah, I have so many that have popped up in my head, but I think the one I'll start with that my daddy always says is, you'll pay a terrible price for the lessons that you learn, right? And so a hard head makes a soft behind. Right. So it's really up to us, whoever the person is, to decide when they want to learn that lesson. Right. A hard head, like you're going to get in trouble enough times until you realize that it's probably only one way or the right way to get something done. And so I think for me, the lesson throughout my college experience, and I think mine is a little bit different, right? Because we did win. Right. We did win every year. And I did have to come to practice every day focused on one goal. Right. And so I think the lesson for me was when I put the work in, the results will show. And I'm lucky. Right. I think Coach Six definitely gets a lot of credit for that, whether we like it or not, indifferent or not. I think his coaching style is one way and all he cares about is winning. But it depends, right? If you're able to understand the goal and the mission, then you may see the results, right? And again, every student athlete is different. And so the lesson that they may learn, I think, may come later. I think for me, I didn't see the big picture early on. Maybe after year 2, year 3, definitely after year 2, right? It was like, all right, we're going to win. Like we just that's the goal now. And each senior, every year, that was their goal too, right? They want to go out with a win. And so I think even for me, I wanted the senior to leave with a ring. And so until I got up to my senior year, I'm like, I'm not leaving here without a ring, right? And so I think I tried.
It's the culture. So y'all built that culture.
And I think that's when, after I think year 5, year 6, the target of Hampton was on everybody's back, or it was on our back. And so I think some of the girls were probably just like, ooh, this is too much.
It was a lot. I can say it was. It was.
So yeah, they were trying to beat us down. And so I'm like coming into the locker room like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Like, let's do it. Let's keep winning. But I can understand, right? I think for us, we were the underdogs. So coming in first year, second year, and listen, we were going to win anyway, but I'm just give y'all that for now. But, coming as an underdog, we weren't expected to win. So we were able to, knock people out. But shoot, by my, junior, senior year, we were blowing people by 40. And Coach Six didn't care. He kept us in the game.
Of course it did.
So at that point, it was like, if we didn't win by 40, I'm like, was that a win or was that just like a close game? And so it's crazy how
the mindset
over the years, if we weren't winning by 30 or 40, it was kind of like, is this practice? Like what are we doing here? Like, so yeah.
And playing for a championship team is not easy.
No.
Because it's one thing to be on top, but it's another thing to stay on top. Like, because that comes with a lot. Just me coming in after you guys, and that was the culture that you guys built. Like, every team I played, even outside of the MEAC, the ACC, we talking Power 5 teams coming out our throats, like, just off of the culture that you guys built and the legacy that you built.
Yeah.
So talk about what it was like to stay on top. Like, and that comes from your teammates, the environment, practice, what it was like every day. Because you got to go hard every day.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. I mean, I remember even as a freshman, being on the practice player. So I was running through the scout. Yeah. Coach Davis would tell us to scout, and I was doing my best to be the number one player to like help make my teammates better when we practice defense. Right. And so I think from understanding that this is how the other teams are going to play us. So like, I can't be at a disadvantage to go through the motions and practice, because then when my teammate gets cooked, it's probably my fault because I didn't cook her in practice. Right. And so I think from there, it was understanding, all right, everyone's coming after us, especially after year 2. Right. That was the expectation. And so I think every senior was probably a captain. And again, they had the same mindset. We all just locked in. I think, like I said, really after we lost the first 7 games, it just started making sense to like, all right, let's figure this out. And granted, I think there's probably still things that if we were to go back now, we probably could have done differently. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. Like, we got out of there. I got my rings. I'm happy.
Right.
Thank God nothing has come up where nobody trying to take my rings or anything like that. But yeah, I think the seniors were always the leaders. And I think the coaching staff they had one goal, right? And so, yeah.
So what advice would you give to student athletes that have the desire to major in some of those harder majors as well as being a student athlete? Because as you know, some universities would tell you what you can and can't do, what you can and can't major in. And I would say that the 5-year MBA program was one of the harder programs at Hampton. So talk about how you were able to get through that.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I was just on campus today walking through, the 5-year program as a professional and going back, remembering the same seats that I sat in when other professionals would come to see us on campus. And so I think for me, it goes back to just the understanding that my current environment as growing up is not where I'm going to stay. Right. And so I just had to understand that I got to do whatever it takes to be successful. And, I even will tell you that my senior year, or maybe my junior year, had an opportunity with KPMG to intern up in DC. But the rest of the team we went to summer school. And Coach Six was like, no, you can't go to the internship. You got to go to summer school, rest of the team. I'm like, okay, did you see my name on the upcoming WNBA draft pick, like selection?
Exactly.
Or, I didn't have to find my plan B, right? And so finally was able to, have that opportunity. And I assured him that I'm going to play, pick up with Georgetown every day after my internship. And I really think that's where I was able to, obtain the Player of the Year award, because I was practicing with Georgetown like players. But I would say if you know for a fact that a major that you want to consider is going to be difficult, being a student athlete, I think it is going to go back to, internally. Like, what do you think you can take? What do you think how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to be successful? Because, and this is no shade to any other student athlete that majored in physical education. But if you ask them, are they in the league today? Because they thought, I'm going to put all my eggs in basketball or sport, the ratio is probably going to be a little bit, skewed.
Right.
So,
and I tell student athletes all the time, like, you got to utilize this time. You got a free education.
Free education.
Use it. Don't use it wisely. Like,
yes.
Get a degree in something that's still going to pay you after this, because this ball is not going.
Yep, that ball is not going to bounce. Your knees only have so many jumps.
I'm telling you.
And so truthfully, I say that loosely because I don't want to step on anyone else's toes, but the honest, point of the matter here is that your student aspect while you're in college is what going to propel you in your career for your future, right? And so thinking about, if I major in, physical education, what career opportunities are there? And, how can I put myself in a position to be successful after college? Right. And so everyone doesn't have the big dreams to work in corporate America, Big Four accounting. But for me, I knew that I wanted to do something more than what was right in front of me. And so, I took a leap of faith, started the 5-year MBA program. I told my classmates, y'all know I got practice at 5 a.m. Y'all know I got practice all throughout the day and class and stuff. So we're going to have to figure out, good study hall sessions. And, we created like a group chat called Teamwork Makes the Dream Work. And so it was just a matter of time where I'm like, all right, I have to graduate. Right. And so even when I went to play professionally overseas, that's when I didn't finish my 5th year, because in 4 years, got the offer to start at KPMG that next fall, and also signed with the agent and said, okay, we have a contract for you to play professionally in Ukraine. I'm like,
how was that process?
What are the recruiters at KPMG going to think about that? And honestly, I just had to go back to the recruiter and say, hey, I have a once in a lifetime opportunity to play professional basketball. I really want to consider this before I start, my corporate America job. And they were all for it. They were like, absolutely, Keiara, we support you. They deferred my offer for 2 years and went to play overseas in Ukraine. And then that's when the war, with Russia started back in 2014. I said, okay, I guess it's time to come home. So then I finished my 5th year in 2015. And before I was going to start with KPMG, my agent found a contract in France. But then the bombing in Paris happened in 2015. And so
timing is crazy, ain't it?
Yeah. So I guess God said, it's time for you to start corporate life. So, so that all worked out. I was still grateful to, opportunity to say I was a professional athlete.
How was your time in Ukraine?
Oh, loved it. I was in Kyiv. So, capital of Ukraine, big city. I had 3 other American teammates, so got to travel. It was an experience that I had never, seen before. That was the first time getting a passport, first time out the country. So I can always credit, basketball to giving me the opportunity to play professionally, take the basketball across the water. Right. So truly grateful for the opportunity.
And what would you say that the opportunity did for you corporately now?
Corporately, I think KPMG just allowed me to live out my dreams, which is why I've been at the firm for, not the only reason why I've been at the firm for so long, but I think them understanding what my true passion was and being open and flexible to allow me to pursue that for as long as I wanted to. I think I have much gratitude for KPMG, right? And so it's all about the people that you meet and the recruiters that I met. They used to come to the games. Yep. They used to come to the games. They had their sign. So they were locked in just as much as I was. And that's so dope. As much as they wanted me to succeed at KPMG, they also wanted me to succeed in basketball. And so just grateful that I was able to find a corporate job in addition to having a professional.
For sure. And I want to ask you, how did you maintain that relationship through basketball? Because that's a lot of misfactor that student athletes don't necessarily know how to do when it comes to networking and building relationships and maintaining relationships. Because look what it did for you.
Mm-hmm. I think, again, I just came from campus, so I just finished talking to college students today. I think you have to go to the career fair. Right? If you're a college student, you have got to get yourself a business suit, a resume, and you have got to find companies that you're interested in and that you want to consider an opportunity with, and take your resume, shake their hands, introduce yourself, and find an opportunity for you. Right? And so literally, I was telling the same students today, do your due diligence by looking up these companies before they come to your campus. So that way, when they come, you can say, hi, I've done my research. I know who you are. I'm interested in this aspect of your job. You know, are there any internship opportunities? Are there any full-time opportunities, right? And so I think student athletes always put our eggs in one basket, and we hope that we're going to make it professionally. And then when it doesn't happen, you know, we're depressed and we're upset and we can't figure out what's next. And so it's sad. And I think for me, I didn't want to be the typical student athlete. Like, I didn't even want to stay with my teammates. Like, every year in the dorm, I'm like, please don't put me with one of my teammates. I see them 24 hours out of the day.
I paid an extra bag to stay by myself.
You know? I'm like, I see y'all enough. I love y'all, but I'm going to see you at practice. I'm going to see you in the caf. I'm going to see you on the road. I'm going to see you everywhere. So, like, I needed an opportunity to be with, you know, we call them regulars. But that gave me different exposure, right? We're talking about exposure. So I think having the opportunity to push myself outside of my comfort zone, knowing that basketball may not be the bounce forever, I was able to, you know, have a plan B, which is really my plan A. But, you know,
it worked out.
It worked out.
It worked out. So as student athletes, we learned a lot of things. A lot of things that transfer over into life after sport. Mm-hmm. So specifically working in the corporate world, what skills do you think transferred over from being a student athlete?
So many skills. I mean, personality traits, I think that's the big one. Yeah, like we're not afraid to, you know, talk to people. We're always connecting. We either talking trash on the court. And so I think as far as like skill sets, time management is huge, right? You are always on the go. You should know how to, you know, wake up in the morning and prepare yourself for class, prepare yourself for practice. So time management is big. I think there's so many. I'm like drawing a blank, but I feel like being a student athlete in corporate America just sets you apart for anything. Like as soon as they see that on your resume, they're like, oh yeah. They know what to do. Like they're able to easily come in and adapt to new environments, new changes. So yeah.
Are there any challenges you feel like you faced being in corporate that reminded you of some of your challenges in college or as a student athlete?
I don't know. I hate to say that I didn't have any challenges, but I just think I've always been driven. And so anything that was a challenge was almost a positive for me. Like I just tried to be optimistic, you know, about it that, oh, okay, I got to wake up at 5 a.m. Fine. I'll go to sleep at 9 p.m., you know, or I got a deliverable due. All right. You know, let me see what like, it was just, I was always just countering any issue to try to, make that solution a little bit better. And so, I think you have to understand that working in corporate and being a student athlete is really a positive. So the only challenge you may face is the one that you put on yourself, right?
I like that.
I will say one challenge I think was imposter syndrome. So
that's a big one.
That's a big one.
And I still fight with that.
I am almost over it.
Okay,
almost. Yeah.
Teach me.
Right. So I think similar to, right, you felt like you were a star basketball player, right? You know, and so I think when it comes to basketball, I'll still check ball today. I haven't touched the ball in God knows when.
If you want to go there, let's go there.
Right. You know, like that was not hard for me. Being able to say, oh, you want to play one-on-one? Okay, fine. Like I'm going to beat you. Yeah, like, that's nothing. And so I had to realize, well, how did I get there to having that confidence? It was because I put in the work. Right. And so I think now in corporate America, it's the same way. In the beginning, I was probably new. I was, you know, learning what was required of me, what was expected of me, and always still tried to put my best foot forward and, you know, give my best effort. And it wasn't until, you know, I think a couple years in, I'm like, all right, I'm doing my due diligence. I'm studying the client. I'm studying the work. I'm listening to any feedback that my managers are giving me. I'm asking questions. I'm taking notes. Like I'm doing the work to be a strong professional. and a high performer. And so when I started seeing what other high performers operated like, I'm like, and I started being considered a high performer. I'm like, why do you have imposter syndrome, Keiara? Like, everyone loves you. Everyone says you're doing great. Just keep being great. And so I think it does depend, what, office you walk into or what, call or meeting you have. But you just have to understand that you're here for a reason and a purpose.
That's been my biggest thing. Just reminding myself, like, all right, I'm here obviously for a reason.
You're here for a reason.
I was told to ask to come speak at this school, and I had to start approaching situations like that. Because, like, being a former student athlete and doing what we do, for one, everybody wants to hear our story. Just off the fact that we were student athletes. And me personally, at one point, I didn't like talking to people. Like, I don't
That's surprising. You're doing a great job.
I don't want to talk about sports. Like, at one point, I didn't want to work in sports. Like, I don't want to talk my story. Like, because it was so mentally and emotionally challenging. I don't want to talk about it. But now it's to the point where it's just obviously all credit to God. Like, he opened these doors for a reason. Like, he put you in these rooms for a reason. And back to that mindset of just reminding yourself, like, you're here for a reason. And I feel like that confidence back to being a student athlete, we put the work in to do what we did. We were champions. Yep. Like, that wasn't easy.
By no means necessary
easy at all. Like, we won championships, like multiple. We played at the NCAA level as a MEAC school.
Yeah.
Which took time.
And we should have beat Kentucky. I'll never forget.
Yes, y'all should have. We won't go there. Yeah. We won't go there. But y'all still beat a lot of Power 5 teams.
Yeah. We did great. I think that right there would have definitely put Hampton on the map. But it is what it is. We made it overtime, and we did the best we could with what we had.
Right.
So
what advice would you have to student athletes that desire to work in the corporate world as far as preparation? I know it starts with major.
Definitely. Picking the right major.
Getting the right experience. Because we waste time as student athletes and think like, oh, we'll get to it later. So it's too late.
Yeah. So I would think, experience, exposure, putting yourself out there early. Like I said, today I told the students, I literally went to the career fair with my resume, and I walked around every single corporation that was at the career fair. And I just introduced myself. I gave them a resume. I told them I was a student athlete. And essentially I said something along the lines of, I need a job after college, right? And so I had multiple job offers, multiple interviews that I went through. And I told one of my mentees, who was also one of my teammates at the time, put yourself in a position to have to choose, right? You're a student athlete for a reason, right? There's a student aspect to it and there's an athlete aspect to it. What are the highest levels of both that you can go to? As a student, you're going to graduate, you can get your degree, and then you get a job. As an athlete, you're going to play in college, you get rings, and then you're going to graduate. And you can either play professionally or you can do something, put yourself in position to at least have the opportunity to say, okay, yeah, you can be considered for,
options.
The professional stage. And so that was my, my thought process. All right, how do I make it to the top of both? And then I have to pick. And luckily I had that option, right? So I would just say, do not think it's too early to start going to the career fair, to start putting yourself out there. Even if you do not have any job experience right now, you're going to get it by putting yourself in front of these companies and asking for, opportunities. And I think we have to be open to volunteering, right? Like,
that's a big one.
All this new generation, all we think about is
money.
How can I get $1? Right. And it doesn't always start like that. Right. Especially if you didn't, start out babysitting or, Chick-fil-A, something to put on your resume. Right. You're going to have to figure out if you want to go to medical school, where can you volunteer at a hospital, prior to, taking the next step. And so I think you have to consider what exposure are you putting yourself in front of, and what experiences have you seen and can you get to help you propel?
For sure. And talk about internships and how important they are as student. Like, as a student athlete, once again, we don't think about those things.
We don't.
Oh, I don't have time, or I'm in summer school, but like you said, the ball gonna stop bouncing at one point, and you have to find some type of level balance. Like, understand, like, if you want to work for KPMG and you want to be a star student athlete, you still gotta take an internship.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think the internships go back to, preparation, right? Where are you in the process of taking the time when these companies come to your campus to get, out there? And I know even for me, I had, practice in the morning, class all day, and then KPMG had a nerve to have an event at 6:00. And I'm thinking my day is over, but I have to go network. I have to go put myself in front of, other execs to say, yeah, I'm in college right now, but I won't be for long. What opportunities do you have? And so understanding that you're going to have to do a little bit more as a student athlete than maybe a regular would, right? Because they don't have practice. They don't have to, have mandatory study time or go on the road. So they just have their normal, 16 to 18 credit hours. So they got time to go to, a company event or happy hour. We don't have, we have to make time for that.
Right.
And so I think it's how bad you want it. If you want to have a job after college that is probably not associated with sports, how are you doing that now? And so putting yourself in a position to not be afraid to go the extra mile to get that extra job.
For sure. And finally, last two questions. What do you think sports has done for you?
Everything. Yeah. I probably could get teary-eyed thinking about it, but I think sports for me has just really put me in a position to, be where I am today. I think I've been able to accomplish so much because of the exposure to different coaches, different players, different aspects of the game, the different style of sports that I've played. It's really given me the fight to tackle corporate America, right? And corporate America is a beast of its own. And so without having the background of being a student athlete, I think I might have, croaked a little sooner just because it gets hard, right? Working 8-10-hour days, thinking no one sees you in a large corporation, no one knows you, right? You went from a predominantly, Black institution to now a all white institution. Right. I think understanding that it's a continuous journey, it's a continuous fight is really what gets me up in the morning and helps me to understand that even today, if I'm the only, person of color at the table, I know that won't be for long. But still, I have to be that representation because without me, again, if it wasn't a student athlete, it could be someone else who, maybe quirky or whatever the case may be. Like I need to be, exactly. Someone to bring, livelihood in this
personality.
Yeah. Thank you. That's
personality. Bring it to the table, a little razzle dazzle.
Right. Yeah. I need to be the one to bring that. So, I think basketball, sports in general, use it to your advantage. That has even now, I feel like as I'm just walking down the street, someone's like, "Did you play basketball?" I'm like,
it's inevitable.
I'm like, okay, I guess, And so whether that's the conversation starter or not, it's an easy sell for me at this point.
For sure. And finally, here at Sport Exposure, we're all about exposing our journeys and our stories. What about sports do you want to expose to the next generation? It can be good, it can be bad, wherever you choose to go.
That's a good question. You didn't tell me that was going to be the list of the questions, but I think as far as, exposure, I will say that, sports are only getting better. And so as student athletes, it's going to be up to you to be able to really make your mark, right? Because the effort that's being broadcasted, the way that women's sports are increasing,
evolving quickly,
are phenomenal for us. I mean, even the NIL deals.
Huge.
I'm still upset that I feel like they owe me some. They owe us some money.
I need a refund.
They owe us some money. I think that's great exposure, right? To have the opportunity to represent yourself, on behalf of your school, and put yourself out there to make X amount of dollars is up to you, and that's even before you start working, right? And so I'll just say that I think basketball, sports in general, especially women's sports, are evolving. And us as, women student athletes, it's going to be up to us to decide what really, it is that we want to see. And if we want to be the next whatever, because even now, we didn't even talk about my basketball officiating.
We didn't.
I know. But, right, I don't think there's 10 women on the active NBA roster that are officials, right? And so basketball has been around 75 years, I think, or more.
We're actively carving.
Yeah. And so thinking about how just last year, I think they didn't have, they hadn't had their 5th ever, women official in the NBA, the sky is still the limit. If the NBA is still, has diversity,
you can do whatever you want right now.
we are at a great time to be the change that we want to see.
For sure. But thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your story. That was fun. Did I create a safe space for you?
Yes. Very safe.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And we'll catch you guys next episode.
See ya.